Blessed Saturday morning to everyone. I'm Joyda from Sower Institute for Biblical Discipleship, the training arm of Bible Society of Singapore. Thank you for joining us for this session of question and answer on financial stewardship and sustainability. This program is brought to you in conjunction to the 40th anniversary of the Evangelical Alliance of Singapore, jointly organized by the Sower Institute, co-organized by the Asian Evangelical Alliance and Alliance of Indian Ministries. This program is also supported by Providend Ltd, founded by Christopher Tan, who is the main speaker for this series. Before we begin, a few gentle reminders for this session. Please kindly note that your microphone is muted by default. If you have any question for our speaker, you may type them in the chat box at any point of time during the session. If you have registered with us for this session, you will also receive a link to access to this session's recording. Do allow a team to process the video, and you should receive the email to the link next week. You will also be able to view this recording on the Bible Society of Singapore's YouTube channel. This morning, we are thankful to have Pastor Benny Ho and Christopher joining us as the panelists for this Q&A session. Before we start, let's open with a word of prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for bringing all of us here once again to hear your words of wisdom and your teaching for us to be good stewards of the goodness that you have provided for us. Help us, Lord, to be more responsible in stewarding and sustaining our financials at any point or any seasons of our life. Help us emerge victoriously for the glory of God, not for ourselves. Lord, we thank you that you have put in our heart this desire to learn from Pastor Benny Ho and Christopher this morning. We thank you for the both of them, for their willingness to serve you and your people, selflessly taking time out from their very busy schedule to guide us and to speak to us. Lord, may you bless them, bless everyone who is hearing these words. Lead us in this Q&A session and bless it to be a smooth and meaningful one for all of us to learn. In Jesus' name we pray, amen. We are thankful to receive positive feedback for the whole series. Many mentioned that Christopher's sharing is timely, while at the same time appreciated the sharing of the biblical perspective of managing our finances. For this morning, allow me to introduce Pastor Benny Ho, who will be encouraging us in this aspect of the program. Pastor Benny is the senior pastor of Faith Community Church in Perth, Western Australia, and he's now at Perth as well. Let us now hear from Pastor Benny as he encourages us to be a good steward of God. Pastor Benny, please.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for giving me the joy and the privilege of coming to speak to you. And I'm also very thankful to be able to partner with Chris on this. Chris and I have been old friends for many, many years, and I'm so glad that he's really serving the wider body now. So thanks for this opportunity. Let me just take a few minutes to just wrap our heads around some scriptures before we let Chris talk to us more about the technical aspects of finance. I think it was John Wesley, the great Methodist Church founder, who once preached a message out of Luke chapter 16, verse 9. And in it, he gave us 3 very simple rules concerning money that can guide us. He simply said, this: gain all you can, save all you can, and then you give all you can. I think this is very good counsel coming from a man who is very skilled in the discipline of stewardship. And to him, money is really a tool that can be used either to great good or it can be used towards great ill. And money can be intoxicating, and we all know that it can be very, very addictive almost. It's like the more you have, the more you want to have. Money has the ability to hold us in its grips, and when it does, we can actually act very irrationally. Some years ago, I wrote a little book on this, and in it, I quoted an advertisement that appeared in a Texas newspaper that reads like this. It's under the classified ads, where you could actually advertise for anything, even a husband or a wife or boyfriend, and this is the ad that appeared in that paper in Texas. It reads like this. And we all know that in Texas, the most prized possession is really farming equipment. So imagine this ad that reads like this. A 50-year-old farmer wants to marry a 30-year-old woman with a tractor. please send a photograph of the tractor. So you can imagine the irrationality of it, and what hope do you have in a marriage that is built on a tractor, right? It's just totally irrational. And that is the reason why I think Jesus in Matthew chapter 6, verse 24, tell us this. He says, no one can serve two masters. Could you help me go to the next slide, please? Matthew 6:24 says, no one can serve two masters. Either he will hate the one and love the other, or he will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money. And I'd like you to notice here that our Lord is not just stating a preference. He did not say you should not. He's not giving us a friendly advice where he say you must not, but he's literally stating an impossibility. He said that you simply cannot serve God and money. In the end, all of us will either serve God or we will end up serving money. And I think in today's theological world, there is two extreme views to money that all of us need to hold in tension. And they are namely, number one, the poverty theology, and the other is the prosperity theology. And let me tell you a little bit about what that is. The poverty theology is basically a reaction against materialism. And it kind of upholds the simple lifestyle. And it also talks a lot about abhorring extravagance. It actually played down a lot. So in the poverty theology, there really is a reaction against materialism. But on the other hand, the pendulum also can swing to the other end, where you have the prosperity theology, a commonly termed as the prosperity gospel. And it kind of focuses on the blessings that can come out of financial abundance and plenty. Then people who hold on to this prosperity theology, they kind of advocate ministering to the poor and the needy, which is very good. However, it tends also to impose a degree of guilt on those who actually have money. And this is something that we do need to deal with. They strongly advocate tithing in prosperity theology and the principle of sowing and reaping. And the people who hold on to this the theological persuasion, they tend to claim their rights to be blessed in proportion to their capacity to give. So if I have great ability to give, I expect to have a great return as well. When taken to its extreme, the problem with the prosperity theology is that it tends to promote a consumer lifestyle. And we need to watch this. It tends to promote consumer lifestyle, does not provide enough space for a Christian to be in lack. And in this regard, I think it's a theology that's not robust enough for us to take the spirit of sacrifice that is portrayed in the cross of Calvary or the divine call to a life of simplicity. But I would like to encourage all of us today that the theology that provides a balance to these two extreme views will be a stewardship theology. And this view is really built on the theological foundation of God's theological foundation of God being the owner and the controller of all things. And when what we possess, therefore, as Christians, is a privilege rather than a right. And we are simply stewards. They're entrusted with the resources, which includes our time, includes our talents, our treasures, as well as our territory. Let me share with you a little bit about what I mean by this. In our time, which is the measure of our life, really comes from God. Our talents is something which is also God-given. But when it comes to our treasures, and this is our focus for today, it's really our resources that God really placed in our hands to manage in such a way that we can glorify Him and then to edify others. At the same time, I also want to mention that we are also stewarding the land or the territory that God has placed in our hands during our time here on earth. And towards all this end, we have a stewardship responsibility to manage them faithfully, to manage them wisely, according to the will of the Master. And in the end, we must be able to give an account for all these things that God has given to us, our time, our talents, our treasures, as well as our territory. And our desire is that at the end, God will be able to say to all of us, well done, thou good and faithful servant. And I like to us to think a little bit about 1 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 1 and 2. And it goes like this. Let a man regard us in this manner as servants of Christ and stewards of the mysteries of God. And in this case, moreover, it is required of stewards that one be found trustworthy. And this word steward, actually in the Greek, is the word oikonomos, and it's a makeup of two words, oikos, which actually means a house, and nomos, which actually means law. So who is a steward? A steward, therefore, is someone who manages or rules on behalf of the owner of the house. So what it really means is that all that we have in terms of our resources, we are simply managing it on behalf of an owner. And in this case, God is the owner, and we are simply stewards. And then Paul challenges us, it is required of stewards that one be found faithful, one be found trustworthy. And this is what we are all seeking to do. Through this entire series, through this entire seminar, I think we are all seeking to be faithful stewards of the resources God has given to us. And today, I just want to end by leaving you with one challenge, that if we are not holders or proponents of a prosperity gospel or a poverty gospel, then how then should we live as stewards? And I like to suggest that there are several ways that all of us can choose to live. One is all of us can learn to, some of us may choose to live above our means. Now, these are basically people who buy things they don't need with money they don't have, just to impress people they don't even know. And we all end up living above our means. So we end up with big possession, but even bigger debt. You know, we have lots of gadgets, but no generosity. And that's something which we want to avoid. There's one level of living, people who live above their means. The second is the people who live with your means. So basically, you spend all that you have by the end of the month, and then you wait eagerly for the next paycheck to arrive. Philosophy, very simple: eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow we die. But it's a very, very stressful way to live, just living with your means. So you end up with nothing at the end of the month. The third level that we can choose to live, and I think many of us do, is to live within your means. These are those who live with some degree of wisdom, and they still want to make sure that they have something they can leave behind on a rainy day, something that they could leave behind for their children. And these are the people who give thought to things like insurance and investment. And that's why all of you are in these webinars. But I want to challenge you to go to the next level where we can actually choose to live below our means. We choose to live below our means. And this will be people who have learned the skill, the spiritual discipline of simplicity. And we come to this point where even though we can well afford something, we actually choose to do without, so that we may have more to share with others. And I think it's a great way to live. People who live below our means, we learn to say enough is enough. And we're not driven, to upgrade every time a new model arrives. We do not feel the compulsion to have to own the latest gadget or, the newest design. Not because we cannot afford it, but because we don't need it. And we actually have found a place of peace and contentment with God. And I believe this is the portion of every Christ follower, that we actually learn to live below our means. Let me end with this, and then I'll hand this time back to Joyda. There's a legend that I read about the great Emperor Charlemagne. When he died, he actually requested for his body to be entombed in a certain manner. And this is what he said: when I die, he told his followers, I want to be buried, in my tomb, seated on a throne. I want a crown on my head, my royal robes on my back, and an open book on my Bible. That's how I want to be entombed. 20 years after he died, in AD 814, the next emperor was Emperor Othello. He came to the throne, and he was very curious to find out, if Charlemagne's followers actually did what he told them to do. So he actually ordered for the tomb to be open. And what he saw was an incredible sight, unforgettable. And I want to paint that into your mind. When they opened the tomb, they discovered that the followers did do what Charlemagne wanted them to do. And what they found was that his body was decomposed. The crown on his head was tilted to one side. The scepter that he wanted in his hand has fallen to the ground. The robe on his back, they were totally decayed. Only the book remained. And it turned out that that book was a Bible. And then on that book was a bony skeleton of son of Charlemagne that's actually pointing to an open book, pointing to one verse. And that verse was actually in Mark chapter 8, verse 35. For what does it profit a man if he gains the whole world, but he loses his own soul? And it was a vivid picture of how materialism is really an inadequate answer to life. But instead, we should all choose to live not as people who are either materialists or people who are humanists, but rather we live as people who are stewards. And may every steward among us here be found faithful. We'll be faithful to steward the resources that God has put into our hands. So we want to avoid the two pendulum swing of either a poverty mentality or a prosperity mentality, but instead we choose to be men and women who are faithful stewards of the Lord. And I want to encourage you today that we, as faithful stewards, we choose really to live below our means and become, and therefore be a blessing to everyone around us. All right. Thank you so much for listening. And I have just want to hand this time back to Joyda.
Thank you so much, Pastor Benny, for sharing with us this wise words to really help us become better stewards. For we are just managing on behalf of God, the owner of all the resources. Thank you so much. Now, the next person who will be speaking, our speaker for this series, Christopher Tan. He is no stranger to most of us here, as we have been learning from him, his clear and practical sharing. And but however, right, we may have some new friends over here, so do allow me to introduce him once again. So Christopher is the CEO of Providend Ltd. He has really a great experience in wealth management and financial planning in the planning industry. He is a certified financial planner and a member of Financial Planning Association of Singapore. He has sat on the management committee of Securities Investors Association of Singapore and was also appointed by the Singapore government to be part of the CPF advisory panel. So it's really a privilege for us to be able to hear from Christopher for this whole financial stewardship and sustainability series. And we are thankful to have him here. So Christopher, do you have anything that you want to say to everyone before the Q&A segment starts?
Okay, so a very good morning to each one of you, and thank you very much once again for having me here. It's actually really a great privilege for me to be able to do this together for all of us. I think this is the 6th session already, but today I'm especially excited because I heard that Pastor Benny is going to join me at the panel. I have been greatly blessed by Pastor Benny, and I'm not saying this just because he's here, and I know he doesn't like people to keep saying or pour all the accolades on him and all that, but it's true because at the lowest point of my spiritual life, it was actually Pastor Benny's message that actually brought me out from the pit. And today when I hear him preach, I just realized how much I miss his voice and his preaching, because he always makes things very, very simple for all of us. So indeed, I'm really very blessed and privileged to be able to do this with Pastor Benny. Nothing very much to say except that I thought since we opened this time for questions, we should jump straight into the questions. From the chat box, I can already see so many questions, and there are some that probably Pastor Benny will take about tithing, and all that. Yeah, so maybe Joyda, we can go straight into the questions.
Okay, sure. Now, we also have some questions that already come in before this session. So let's start off with some of them. Let's start off with the insurance question. Okay, so we have received this question, Christopher. Is it advisable for a retiree above age 65 to purchase personal accident insurance policy?
Okay, so it's a good question, and I thought that how I want to do it is I've shared this during my insurance session, so maybe allow me to just share screen again. Okay, so it's easier for me to explain it from the PowerPoint slide. So the question really is about, Joyda, you can see the slide, right?
Yes.
Okay, so the question really is about whether a retiree will need, a person who is 65 years old and above will or should buy a personal accident insurance. Now, I think before we decide the kind of product we should buy, I think we first must ask ourselves, what do we need at this stage of our lives, right? And so I'm going to assume that a person who is 65 years old is probably retired or near retirement. So what does a retiree or person who is near retirement needs? Okay, so you can see my laser pointer. Yeah, so for a retiree, well, if the risk that he is facing is somewhat severe, so you look at it here, okay, but the risk is something that he has very low control over. These are the risks that he should transfer out to the insurance company. Okay, I'm not sure how many of you attended the insurance segment, yeah, but I explained this thing called the risk matrix, yeah. But well, for a retiree, if the risk is not so severe, that he's facing is not so severe, okay, and not really controllable, then he should retain the risk. So what are some of the risks that, well, not controllable, but if it happens, it's not so severe? For example, income loss due to critical illness or early critical illness, income loss as a result of you suffering from disability, income loss as a result of death. Now, for a retiree, well, yes, we have no control over when we will fall sick, whether we will fall sick, when we will die. We definitely will die. But the risk that comes with these things, income loss, well, they are not severe because why? At this stage of our life for a retiree, in the first place, you don't earn an income, right? So actually, there is no, in a way, income loss for you. And secondly, by now, your dependents will probably be all independent of you already. So today, if you die or you are sick, you are not so worried about not having an income. And therefore, you just retain this risk. But for a retiree, these are the things that, well, if it happens, it's very severe and you have very little control. What are they? Medical costs due to severe disability, hospitalization costs, or cost of alternative medicine like traditional Chinese, Malay, Indian medicine or whatever medicine, right? Running out of money due to longevity. These are the risks that, well, very low control, but if it happens, it's going to hit you financially very hard. Yes, this is the risk that you should try to transfer to the insurance company. Now, with that, then let's ask ourselves this question. Should I buy personal accident insurance? Yes, at 65 and above, the chances of us, well, falling down, and all that is very high. But if today I am met with an accident, what is my biggest fear? What is my biggest risk, right? Is my fear loss of income? No, we said that, no, right? Because for a retiree, well, if the fear is losing income due to a disability caused by the accident, if it is the fear of losing my income due to death because of an accident, no problem, I retain the risk. But, well, if it is a risk due to all these things, I buy insurance, right? So if personal accident, actually, if you think about it, I don't really need it, right? Because if I'm afraid that due to an accident, I'm hospitalized, I buy hospital insurance. I don't really buy personal accident insurance. Yeah. So my point is this. My point is that at 65 years old, personal accident insurance is probably not the most important. Okay. It is not top priority. Yeah. And after you have taken care of every of your other financial needs, and you still have some budget left and you want to buy it, right? You want to buy it, it's up to you. But I'll say it is not top priority because it is not a need at this stage of your life. Okay, so I hope that explained. Okay, Joyda, back to you.
Yeah, I thought this is quite clear. So we have to look at our the risk that we are looking at, right? Christopher, are you referring to that?
Yeah, that's right. So I hope I'm clear. This morning I'm very tired, so I know I'm speaking clearly. Yeah, but my point really is that, oftentimes we ask ourselves, should I buy this product? Should I buy that product? And all that. But I think the question we first have to ask ourselves, besides deciding on a product, is what is my need at this stage of my life? Right? And as a retiree, my fear is if I fall sick, I have to incur huge medical expenses. That is taken care of by hospitalization insurance. In Singapore, we are very blessed. We have MediShield Life. We have all the integrated shield plans and all. Those takes care of your medical. Those things take care of your medical costs if you are warded into hospital. Right? You are not so afraid of, if I fall sick at 65, if I am disabled at 65, I got no income, because you don't earn income in the first place already. Yeah. And those insurance for that purpose is not really needed. Yeah. If you buy it, it's just over and above. And I always say that there is a priority. I mean, we cannot cover for every need. Then that's not a good steward of our money. Yeah.
Okay, so Christopher, you mentioned about all this shield policy that we already have. So we have a participant who also asked this. This participant is actually a cancer survivor in the early 50s, as in his early 50s. So he has this whole life insurance and all the elder shield and income shield. So he would like to know if there is other medical insurance that he can actually take up.
Yeah, I mean, so sorry to hear about this. And thank God you are a cancer survivor. Yeah, because, you are here and God has given you time to continue to be able to serve Him. Usually if you are a cancer survivor, it is very difficult to buy another insurance. The insurance company usually, I say usually because I know AIA recently has come out with a plan that allows cancer survivor to buy the insurance. And there are some very expensive insurance being sold by the private banks, the Universal Life and all that may cover you if you are a cancer survivor, depending on what kind of cancer. Yeah, but generally speaking, once you're a cancer survivor, it's very hard to be insured again. And if you already has got a shield plan, I say keep it. It's good enough for you. And if you already got a whole life plan, and I don't like whole life plans because it's very expensive, but since you already have got it and you have just survived cancer, I would say keep that as well, because like it or not, a person who is a cancer survivor, the life expectancy would be shorter. Of course, by God's grace, you can live for a long time. Yeah, but medically speaking, your life expectancy is shorter. So it's quite likely that your family will claim that insurance. So I would say keep it. I can't think of any other insurance that you should buy. And even if you want to, it's going to be difficult to buy.
Then what about a lady with an endowment plan? This lady is 52 years old, and the endowment plan includes critical illness. So that just, it is matured in 2 days, just matured. What other term plans can she buy now to cover the critical illness?
Yeah, so congratulations, you've been saving well, and 2 days later, it's going to mature. The first thing you should do is bring us out all for a meal, because you're going to receive a huge sum of money. I'm just kidding. Yeah, but again, we go back to their need. Right? Let's not think about product first. Okay, oftentimes people think about product first because I think maybe the sales industry wants you to look at it that way. But you first ask yourself, you are in your 50s, what are your needs? Right? Well, if you die today, if God takes you home, is anyone at home going to miss you financially? I'm sure people will miss you emotionally, but are there anyone out there that's going to miss you financially? And if your answer is yes, people is going to miss me financially because they still need my income, then you might need to buy some term insurance to cover if you don't have enough coverage. Okay, if your answer is no, then you don't need to buy any term insurance to cover it because there is no need, right? Then you're going to ask yourself the next question. If today I am medically ill, if I suffer cancer, if I got a heart attack, right? Is anyone at home going to miss my income because I cannot work already? If your answer is yes, then you probably need to buy a critical illness plan. But if your answer is no, then you don't need to buy any more critical illness plan. At 50 years old, the critical illness plan is going to be very expensive, right? You're going to ask yourself this question again, that if I'm disabled, is anyone going to miss me financially? If the answer is yes, then you probably need to buy a disability income insurance. If the answer is no, you don't need to buy any insurance, right? Well, I think all of us will need hospitalization insurance. That's the insurance that you need for as long as you live. So that's basic. You need to have that. But don't think about what product should I buy first, but rather think about those questions I've asked you. Do you have a need or not? And if seriously you're like, no, today if I die, today if I suffer disability, today if I have cancer, I'm not, and nobody is going to miss my income, then don't buy. Because at this age, well, what is more important now is to channel whatever surpluses that you have into saving for retirement. That's more important. Yeah. As we get older, our insurance needs actually drop. Yeah, that's something that we need to understand. Yeah.
I see. Yeah, so I think the main takeaway is really to really know what is the need that for the purpose of buying the insurance.
Yeah.
And Christopher, you mentioned about term plans, right? Term policies.
Yeah.
So can you just tell us more about term policy? Because we have question asking income loss due to early critical illness, income loss due to disability, medical costs due to severe disability. Is all this the insurance that covers this term plan?
I think it's the other way, right? But does a term plan covers all these risks, right? So what is a term plan? Now, a term plan really is a kind of insurance that you buy that at some point in time, it will stop. Okay, so you can buy a term plan that covers death. That means to say it pays upon death. You can buy a term plan that pays out when someone is diagnosed with critical illness or critical illnesses. A term plan will pay out if someone suffers total and permanent disability. It pays out a lump sum, but the coverage period is for a period of time, depending on how long you buy it. So most people buy term until 65 years old, until 70 years old. And after 65, after 70 years old, if you don't claim it, and thank God if you don't, the plan ends. Okay, you don't get a single cent back. It's pure coverage, pure insurance. That's what a term plan is. Now, some people will say, but isn't that not a wise use of my money? Because if I buy a whole life plan, our whole life plan covers you for as long as you live. Okay, and a whole life plan, if you surrender it at some point in time, you get some cash back. You don't always break even the premiums you pay, but you do get some cash back. Yeah. So, like I say, people ask, isn't it better to buy a whole life plan? At least there is a saving component, whereas a term plan will end at some point in time, and there is no saving component at all. Okay. And those of you who attended the insurance session, you will remember me saying that no, actually, it is the same. The whole life plan is a bundled plan. Okay, every $1 premium that you pay to the insurance company when you buy a whole life plan, okay, let's use an example. The insurance company will say take 10 cents to buy the insurance you need. The remaining 90 cents, they will go and save and invest for you. So when you buy a term plan, you are like telling the insurance company, don't save the 90 cents for me. I only want to give you 10 cents to buy my coverage. That's a term plan. Okay, so you're not losing money in a way, because when you buy a whole life plan, you are also throwing away the 10 cents. The insurance company is not going to give you back the 10 cents because they need the 10 cents to cover you, right? You are only getting some money back from a whole life plan because you gave the insurance company extra 90 cents to save for you. When you buy a term plan, you are just giving the insurance company 10 cents. But because of that, a term plan is very, very cheap. The premium is 10 times cheaper than a whole life plan. Okay? And because it is 10 times cheaper than a whole life plan, you are able to cover yourself sufficiently. On average, Singaporean, based on MAS data that they produce, on average, every Singaporean probably need about 700,000 to about $1 million coverage in their 30s. There's a lot of coverage. Very few people can afford buying a whole life plan that covers 1 million. it's going to be a 5-figure premium. Yeah. But a $1 million coverage using a term plan is like, depending on your age, but it's like $1,000 a year. Surely most of us can afford $1,000 a year, and you buy $1 million coverage. And that's why buying a term plan is the most affordable way to fully cover yourself, right? Now, let me address the last part about the term plan. But what if it ends halfway, all right? What if it ends at 70? Because that is also a feature of a term plan. It doesn't cover you for life. It ends at some point in time. It ends here at 65 or 70. Well, the reason why you buy the term plan is to replace your income loss in case you die, right? Your family has money to go on. At 70 years old, you are no longer earning an income anyway. You don't need to cover yourself to replace income. Plus, at 70 years old, for most people, their dependents would have been independent. And it's okay that insurance ends. And actually, it's better that it ends because you don't have to pay premium anymore, especially when you don't earn an income. Okay, so a term plan is suitable for most situations. You don't really need a whole life plan. Whole life plans are useful for very few situations, like you have a strong conviction in buying or in seeing a Chinese sinsay, for example, if you are sick, if you are critically ill. A MediShield Life or a IP plan will not cover your Chinese sinsay costs, right? So if you are sick and say suffer cancer, you need a lump sum to consult the Chinese sinsay. That's where critical illness whole life works. It gives you a lump sum payout, and then you can take the money and do anything you want, including paying the Chinese sinsay, right? Yeah. Then you need a whole life critical illness plan because you want that cover regardless of your age. That's probably one of the very few situations you need a whole life plan. Otherwise, term plan will suffice. I did say the last thing. Please allow me to say one. I'm 50 years old this year. I realize when I'm 50, I'm very low so on. So the last thing I want to say about the term plan is that, we all earn a limited $1 income per month. You know what I mean when I say we earn a limited $1 income per month. And if we try to put so much money into insurance, we won't leave enough to save for the future. We won't have enough to live a life that God wants us to live today, including giving to the areas that you want to give, right? So insurance is a contingency plan. It's not the main plan. Yeah, insurance is your fire extinguisher at home. If you have got 100,000 renovation money, you don't spend 80,000 buying fire extinguisher, right? It is not the plan you want to rely on. And because it is a contingency plan, it is an expense. And because it is an expense, you buy as much insurance as you need, but please pay as little as you can so that you leave enough for the main plan. Yeah, so I hope that explains term insurance.
Okay, thank you so much, Christopher. So we have quite a number of insurance questions, but I think Christopher has already shared very clearly the stand that we should take. Now I'll be moving on to the next question. Probably I'll throw this question to Pastor Benny. Yeah. So Christopher was saying that in one of the chat, one question in the chat room, right? They asked about tithing, and previously we also received emails from people asking us to talk more about tithing as well because it's financial management. So Pastor Benny, this question probably I will ask you to share first. With regards to cash flow management, okay, is tithing 10% of our income a command or an option? If I am struggling to pay debts, can I stop tithing? Will I still be cursed from Malachi? In Malachi, the 3rd chapter, verses 9 to 10. Yeah, Pastor Benny.
Okay, maybe I can first of all draw the basic parameters first. Please understand that when it comes to tithing, in the Old Testament, before the law was given, tithing was already practiced by Abraham in Genesis 14, when he met Melchizedek and he offered 10% of his plunder to Melchizedek. So the principle was before the law, tithing was practiced, but it was done voluntarily, meaning which nobody was expected to do it, but Abraham chose to do it. In other words, it was voluntary. Then when the law was instituted after Moses wrote came out with the laws and not just the Ten Commandments, but all the Levitical laws as well, then during the law, you notice that tithing was now commanded. It becomes compulsory. So before the law, it was voluntarily. During the law, it was compulsory. If you don't tithe, you die. You don't tithe, your land will be cursed, etc., etc. Then came after the law. Now we are in the New Testament, living after the law. Is tithing still being practiced? Absolutely, it is still being practiced. When Jesus came, he did not actually remove tithing, but he did change the spirit of it. It's no longer just voluntarily, it's no longer just compulsory, but now it is willingly. So here's a general principle. Before the law, it was voluntarily. During the law, it was compulsory. But after the law, under grace now, it is willingly. So I now tithe, not because I have to, I tithe because I want to. I tithe out of gratitude towards what Jesus have done for me. I think it was Oswald Chambers who once made this statement. He said that if the Pharisees who knows nothing about Calvary's love would faithfully tithe even their spices and all that, how much more should we who are recipients, of God's love through the cross? How much more should we do it? So to me, tithing now is no longer something I have to do. It's something I choose to do out of gratitude. And because it is done out of gratitude, it's no longer the ceiling, it has become the floor. It's like a starting point, to really express my gratitude to the Lord. Now, having said that, okay, with that as a backdrop, when it comes to the specific question that if I'm in debt, can I don't tithe but pay my debt first? I would put it this way. When it comes to giving today, there are three guiding principles I follow. Number one is this: I want to give according to my capacity. Okay, there's a giving according to my capacity. So to as much as I have been given, then I want to give back. So there is the capacity issue. The second principle is I want to give according to my faith. So if I'm going to give, I want to be able to give in faith and not like I give and at the same time I'm fearful. I want to give, but at the same time I'm wondering whether I'm going to suffer or not. So I want to give out of faith. And then the third is I need to give out of my conviction. What truly is your biblical conviction when it comes to giving? So the same applies to tithing now. I am not convinced that tithing is by law anymore, because today I give willingly. So therefore, if that is my conviction, then I think if I owe somebody money, then I have no issue actually making adjustment so that I can pay and be responsible towards my debt. Okay, but that is my conviction. Now, if you happen to be someone who is totally convicted that tithing is still something that I must do as a responsibility towards God, then I would say, according to your faith, according to your conviction, then don't take away your tithe, but trust God then to provide you, to do every other thing. So give according to. So use those guiding principles and make a decision. Okay, that firstly is before the law is voluntary. During the law is compulsory. After the law is willingly. Now, I personally, I believe that that God will provide, and therefore, with that conviction, with that faith, I will make certain decision. Now, I think you have to make your decision. I know you want me to tell you exactly what to do, but I think it's more important that we learn how to live we live out our discipleship. Okay, and you had to learn to make your decision. I give you those guiding principles. Give according to your capacity, give according to in accordance to your faith, and give according to your conviction. So, okay, so I'll leave that with the questioner.
Thank you so much, Pastor Benny. So that is about tithing because this is in the Bible. Now, what about managing? Because we are learning how to manage our finances. Yeah. So, how can we encourage brothers and sisters to actually give cheerfully and faithfully? Then this is not tithing, but it's like giving to
understand.
especially during this time. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the reason why in my sharing earlier, I say one of the I'll give you four ideas here. Okay, number one is this, that we decide resolutely that we are going to choose to live below our means. So that's one. At some point, we just say enough is enough, and then we learn how to have space, to give. And the other thing I would do, and this is what I practice with my wife, which is to have within our own financial planning a generosity fund that we put aside every month. And this generosity fund, whatever the amount, it goes up and down according to the seasons that we are in. But in every season, we want to have a generosity fund. And this generosity fund adjusts itself according to what we are going through right now. For example, during a pandemic, you could lose your job, that generosity fund could come down, but that's okay. But my goal is that as part of my planning, I want to be able to be generous with the people around me. And therefore, I put aside a budget just to carry that out. Okay. The third thing I already decided long time ago, and which helps me to do number one, to choose to live below my means, is I've chosen never to put my money into things that are depreciating in nature. So I don't feel I need to upgrade my car all the time. I don't feel I need to have the latest iPhone. I don't feel I need to have the latest gadget, because there are some things that once you put the money in, it actually dwindles. It doesn't build. It actually goes down. So I think there is a level of luxury so that I would desire, but beyond that, I say enough is enough. And I just refuse to put my money into things that depreciate. And the fourth thing that I find very helpful is really to have a financial planner. Now, I'm speaking now as a consumer, as someone who is not planning, but I don't have the skills to plan. I really appreciate. A few years ago, my wife and I decided that we will go to a professional financial planner, someone like Christopher, and actually sit down and get him to walk through with me my real needs. And they actually come up with a plan for me, which includes insurance, which includes the investments, include all these things. And that really helped me. Now I can sleep with peace, in the sense that I'm not wondering whether, am I properly insured? I'm not wondering whether if I were to retire, would I have enough? That kind of thing. They actually help me to plan according to what I have. And that really, really helped me. And it gave me peace of mind. So my general principle when it encourages us to continue to have giving is, number one, choose to live below your means. Never put your money into things that depreciate all the time. And number three, have a generosity fund. And number four, have a proper financial plan work out for you by someone who actually know what he's doing. And that really helps. So Chris is a great guy when it comes to this too. So go talk to him. Have a proper financial plan drawn up.
Thank you so much, Pastor Benny. Yeah.
You're welcome.
So, yeah, and I think those are very practical way of living also, because it's a lifestyle of simplicity. I think you have mentioned it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yes, I think I saw Christopher was like all smiling when he was talking about the generosity fund and financial planner. Christopher, anything to add on?
No, I mean, I was just thinking earlier on when Pastor Benny was answering the question on tithing, and I was thinking this is Pastor Benny at his best, because I can remember everything that he said after this in easy point, right, in point form. So that was really helpful for me. Yeah, I was also smiling because we did talk about generosity fund in our very first session, but it's different from Pastor Benny's version. My version, for those of you who attended, is that I said every month, on payday, set aside an amount of money for bad mood fund and also generosity fund. And it can be any amount that you can afford. It can be $20 a month. It can be $50, it can be $100, it can be any amount that you can afford. And then you stash it away, you put it in your drawer. For me, I take it out and I put it in my office drawer, I lock it. Yeah. And when you are bad mood, you just open up a drawer, you see the stack of cash. Before you even spend it, you're good mood already, because you know you actually have got that money to spend. And that money is also for generosity, right? Because, well, sometimes, generosity doesn't have to come in a big way. Sometimes you walk along the street and you see people selling tissue paper, and there are plenty of those old people. Instead of trying to think about whether they are real or they are fake, whether they really needed money. What is just $1 or $2 for these people? So that's the day-to-day generosity thing, right? And if you have got time, and I've seen people, I work along Tanjong Pagar, and there is this old man that sells tissue every day. He's been there for as long as I've been working at Tanjong Pagar. And I've seen passerby buy coffee for this old man. It's just very heartwarming to see Singaporeans doing that for the needy. Yeah, and we can do that kind of thing, right? It doesn't have to be I don't have to give $10,000. I can give $1, $2. And I'm sure many of you have done it already. Yeah. So, yeah, Jordan, back to you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, so let's go to the more technical side, back to the technical side. So we talk about financial planner. Yeah, so we have question coming in asking, who should we buy from, since both Money Hour and Providend also sell dimensional? So we are going into investment, I believe.
Yeah, actually, when I saw that question, I don't really know how to answer this question. I don't really know how to answer because I really don't want to talk about services in webinars like this, because sometimes it can come across very wrongly, and I'm trying to avoid that. Yeah. But I'll say this. I'll say that if you have got a trusted advisor helping you, please go to your trusted advisor. Because it's not just about competence, it's not just about experience of the advisor, it's also about your chemistry, right? Because I'm sure we have experience like that, right? Sometimes you see a doctor that is very competent, very experienced, but something you just don't like the doctor bedside manners or cannot talk to you properly, and all that. Right, and that is a very important part of a professional. And it sometimes there's nothing wrong with that professional. It's just human to human interpersonal chemistry. So if you already have an advisor that you can trust, he is competent, experienced, and you have that chemistry, continue to work with this guy. Okay, that is best. To your question on Providend and Money Hour, I'll just say this, that the difference between Providend and Money Hour is Money Hour is actually a joint venture between Providend and NTUC Enterprise. 2 years ago, we had the privilege to go into this joint venture with NTUC Enterprise because, NTUC Enterprise is a very big company. Providend is a teeny-weeny, small little company with only 25 people, right? But we went to this joint venture to set up Money Hour because Money Hour is a social enterprise. It is set up to meet the needs of the mass market, ordinary Singaporeans in the street. Providend, because of its setup, we serve people with more wealth. We serve people who have got more complex financial situations. When you have more money, you have more problems. So Providend is set up to serve people like that. Yeah. Money Hour, we serve anyone. Yeah. So it's up to you because you know your situation best. If you have got an advisor, please carry on your advisor. If you don't have, you really need help. Both Providend and Money Hour can, but then Money Hour for people, ordinary Singaporeans in the street. Providend serves the high net worth and the more affluent families. Okay, so I hope that explains.
Okay, so then the follow-up question from our participant would be, do we need to indicate our allocation for dimensional, or the advisor will help us to allocate, or it is predetermined?
Okay, dimensional is just a fund manager. Now, it is a fund manager that we strongly believe in because of its low cost and because of the way it invests, it don't time the market and all that. Now, a financial product is just like an ingredient you need to use when you are cooking. Okay, the allocation is like the recipe. So you first need to know what is the recipe before you allocate into the ingredients, right? The advisor is supposed to help you design that recipe based on what you want to eat. And at different stage of life, different seasons of your life, you want to eat different dishes, right? So the advisor is supposed to be the one that helps you do the asset allocation.
Okay. Yeah. So then how do we know when to sell this dimensional after invested for more than 5 years or 10 years?
Yeah. So you sell it when you need to sell it. I'll put it this way. So for people who are young and you are accumulating, so let's say you are 30 years old and you are saving for retirement in 30 years time, let's say. Okay. So you save and you save and you save, say in 30 years time, you reach $500,000, for example. Okay. Now, usually what we will do once you are in retirement is that we don't sell one shot, right? We will reallocate your investments and then we sell slowly. Usually we sell year by year, okay, so that you now have money to consume. So there is an accumulation stage of your retirement planning. There is also a withdrawal stage of your retirement planning. At your withdrawal stage, you need to start to sell, but you need to sell orderly, okay, and you need to know how to sell it, okay, because for example, today, if you are 100% still in stocks and you are in retirement today, this is not a very good time to sell, right? So a few years before retirement, we would have already sold some of your investments and put it into cash so that at retirement, you are drawing down from cash, okay? So in short, you sell when you need it, but you sell orderly. Your advisor should be able to advise you how to do that.
So it's still better to get an advisor for this matter?
I'll say generally yes, unless when you get an advisor, you incur a cost for sure, right? Because it's our job, right? So we have to be paid. Yeah, but if you are those that you are interested, you know how to do it yourself, don't use an advisor because you save some money. But that's only if you are interested and not everybody likes to do it, yeah.
Okay. So our participant actually attended your investment talk. So take notes when you are talking. You mentioned that you will top up every month when the market is down. So like I think currently this is the situation. So what are your equities top up portfolio?
Okay, so a few things. The markets have recovered about 50% since February. So it's crazy. Yeah. Now, so I don't top up every month when the market is down. Okay, because the market is not down every month, right? So what I do is I go on a regular investment mode. So every month, okay, I regularly put in a fixed amount via Gyro. Gyro is the best. Okay, why? Because I don't even think about it, right? It just automatically channel into that, right? So let's say every month I automatically save $1,000, let's say. Okay, so that's what I'll do. And I don't care whether the market is down or market is up because I cannot guess. There's no way I can guess it, right? So every month I'll just put in the Gyro helps me. But I always have this, what I call dry powder. Okay, and the dry powder is over and above the emergency fund. Okay, emergency fund, for those of you who attended the first session, we always say as a guide about 6 months of your monthly expenses, as a guide. Okay, guide only because some of you are in a job, but if you lose it, very hard to replace, and you probably have to have more emergency fund. Okay, so after you set aside your emergency fund, you set aside another amount for what I call dry powder, and that dry powder is when market goes down, I go and buy it. I don't trade it. Once I buy it, I keep it there for the next 10, 20 years. Right? So February this year was an example. The market went down 30%. So I just took my spare cash and I deployed, and I don't look at it anymore. Yeah, so that's what I meant.
Okay. Okay, so now the next question also on investment about stock. I'll just read it out. It's quite long. As REITs is a stock, and you mentioned that it's not encouraged to buy individual company stock given the risk. However, REITs generate higher dividend, which is better than current bank interest. So as such, is it still not recommended to invest in it for long terms, even at minimal amount to receive the quarterly dividend?
Yeah, so REIT, Real Estate Investment Trust, is a very popular instrument that a lot of Singaporeans use to generate dividend. Now, there are two ways of investing. One is you don't care about dividend, you invest for capital growth. Okay, now I'm assuming that you are younger, okay? Okay, because if you are young and you're 30 years old, you should be investing for capital growth, right? But there is another school of thought, which is very popular amongst financial bloggers nowadays. They invest for income. So they don't just buy REITs, they will buy good dividend paying stocks that pay dividend. And the idea is this, the idea is once my total dividend income is more than my monthly pay, I'm financially independent because I'm getting say $5,000 every month from my stocks and from my REITs, right? And I'm earning say $4,500 and I'm financially independent. Now it is not wrong. So I'm not stopping you to buy your REITs. No. But we have to understand that once you go on this mode of investing, because you are buying individual issues, you're buying individual stocks, you are a lot more concentrated. Your risk becomes higher, right? And therefore, you need to watch these stocks. Do you want to do it? Do you like it? Do you have the experience, the technical expertise? If you're using an advisor, does the advisor have this expertise to help you watch it? And even if you watch it, this year is a very good example. Look at all the blue chips on the Singapore Stock Exchange. Look at SIA. Look at Keppel. Look at Singtel. I mean, look at these blue chips that give dividends. But because of the current pandemic, the value of your stock dropped tremendously. It is like buying a property that gives you rental income, but the value of property has dropped by half. Can you take it? You might not be able to take it, right? And then you might not even know what to do with it. And we cannot even foresee it, this pandemic, right? So nothing wrong if you want to buy REITs and nothing wrong if you want to buy good dividend paying stock to give you an income, but you must be able to watch it and take that risk because you're just taking concentrated risk. Yeah, so that much I would say. I've got people in my office who are like that. They buy individual REITs but this guy is from my investment team, so he is very into picking individual issues, and all that. And even for him, early this year when the market came down, and then he looked at his stock portfolio and said, "Oh my goodness, it's dropped by 50% already." Yeah, but because he's very much into it, he didn't do anything, and of course later on it came back. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So, yeah, I think whatever finances we are planning for now, even for investment, right, we are also actually planning for retirement. So we have question coming in for retirement. So our participant is 37 years old and started thinking about saving for retirement. What are your thoughts on getting endowment plans for this? And the rate doesn't seem very awesome. CPF interest rate looks better.
Yeah. So I've said it before, I don't like endowment, okay, because endowment plans, insurance is a very expensive way to save and invest. The primary purpose of insurance is not for saving and investment. The primary purpose of insurance is for protection. That's why it's called insurance, insure, right? Yeah. But there is a place for endowment for people who are very low income earners and for people who are not educated. Okay, now I don't mean to be very condescending, but I've seen people out there who comes to me and really it is actually better for them to buy an endowment plan than to invest because they don't understand investment and they just are unable to understand. And it is better for them to use endowment even though the returns are very low. At least they won't get out of the market at the wrong time, right? But for most of us here whom we are educated enough, well, endowment plan is not your best choice. I don't have a single endowment plan. I have never bought a single endowment for my children. Okay, because the returns are so low at maybe on average now about 2%. Yeah. So if you are 37 years old, you are really young. I can't believe it when I say 37 years old is very young, because I used to be 37. Yeah, but 37 years old, many of us in this room will agree you're very young and you have a long time horizon. And because you have a long time horizon, you should really go into the stock market. Okay, really go into equities and save towards your retirement. I just remember there was a question, Jordan, you asked, I didn't answer just now, and people think I don't want to say about my own investments, right? I am 100% into stocks. I don't have bonds at all in my portfolio. Yeah, so in my investment portfolio, 100% into stocks. I have 2 pots. One pot, they are all in dimensional funds, okay? But they're all in equities or stocks. I have another pot, 100% into index ETFs. Okay, and in my last session, I shared with all of us I only buy 2 ETFs. Okay, ETFs are index, they are traded on the exchange. Okay, the first ETF I bought is the S&P 500 index, listed on the London Stock Exchange. And the ticker is VUAA, if I remember correctly. VUAA is the ticker, it's the Vanguard S&P 500. And the other ETF I bought is the MSCI All World Index. The ticker is VWRA. Okay, so that's all I have. Okay, and my biggest investment is my company. Yeah, so if you want to buy the ETF, you can buy, but you must like it because it's very troublesome. Because, okay, by the way, why London Stock Exchange and why not Singapore? Singapore is a pain to buy ETF, no liquidity. You want to buy, you wait a few days. Then you can put an order in, okay, and then you wait, maybe somebody will sell. You want to sell, you wait, then nobody wants to buy it. So it's not very liquid. And because it's not very liquid, it can be very expensive to sell, right? Why not US? Please don't buy ETF from US stock exchange because there is estate duty. Okay, so unless you have a telephone line to God and say, when am I going to die? 1 week's time, sell everything now. Right? Otherwise, if you die at the wrong time, there's estate duty. There is 33% withholding tax. That's crazy. Every $1 you make, 33% gone already. Tax exhaust, right? And so I buy from London because London Stock Exchange, the UCITS, the 2 I gave you, no estate duty. It's domiciled in Ireland. Now, so you see, even when I talk about these things, you realize that if you want to do on your own, you must have interest, because you're going to find all these things, right? For some people, it is like, no interest. I'm not interested anyway. I also not interested. The only reason why I know all these things is I just walk down my aisles and ask my investment people, hey, just give me 2 ticker, and then tell me why this, and they explain to me. Okay, so Jordan, back to you.
Yeah, okay, thank you so much. Yeah, I think for myself, I must be very honest that I am the kind that has no interest as well. So I'm learning actually a lot from Christopher, your sharing. And you mentioned about all this ETF and ticker, right? Following this topic, right? It's just for retirement planning. Is it enough to stay in all this investment that you were sharing?
Well, enough or not, is really up to your own need. Okay. In fact, I am of the belief that most Singaporeans will be enough with just CPF. Okay, and so if you're happy with the amount that CPF can give, you don't even have to take risks and invest. The government do it for you, right? So what am I talking about? So if you are 55 years old today, okay, if you are 55 years old today and both husband and wife, okay, you have got about 540,000 combined in your CPF retirement account, 270 each. And if you think about it, 270,000 each, CPF plus cash combined, most people should have. I wouldn't say most people, sorry, many people will have. Okay, 270,000 in your RA, 270,000 in your spouse RA, combined together at 55. At 65 years old, 10 years later, you are going to get about $4,000 per month for life. Sing dollars for life. So is $4,000 Sing dollars for life enough for you? And you say, I think it's quite good. $4,000 per month for life is quite good. And that's it. You don't have to invest anymore. Granted, it does not hedge against inflation, but there is this belief for some people that as we get older, you tend to spend lesser, you can't travel far, the things you do are more sedentary, and all that. So if you think that's enough for you, then CPF is good enough for you. And so what you should be doing now is that you can don't buy investments, don't buy insurance, just slowly top up your CPF now. And that is an investment instrument that gives you a guarantee of 4%. It's not bad, right? And only after you have done that, and then you feel that, no, I think I have the financial ability to, I can actually better make use of my money, I've got some extra, then you start thinking about investment. Yeah, so I hope that explains.
Okay. Yeah. So a very quick question over here in the chat room. Which platform are you using to trade in the FTSE?
I use interactive brokers. There are a lot of new ones in Singapore. I think the cheapest one is Saxo, SAXO, Saxo. So, but I use interactive brokers lah. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So we have actually a lot of questions coming in for CPF. So we have discussed. I've discussed this with Christopher because we have another session of Q&A on CPF, solely on CPF. So, but I think we have this question coming in with a mixture of CPF and investment. So, Christopher, I'll put this to you. Okay, this question. Two questions. First question: every year the retirement sum is increased by a couple of thousands, currently at 7,500. Okay, my retirement account has already reached enhanced retirement sum amount, and I am 63 years old now, planning to draw down closer to late 60 or at 70 years old. How will my annual top up to ERS amount impact on my future payout, say at 68 or 70 years old? And what is the projected percentage of increase in the payout? Okay,
so every year, your whether BRS, basic retirement sum, or FRS, full retirement sum, or ERS, enhanced retirement sum, it goes up by 3%. Okay, so I'll give you a fixed percentage, it's 3%. We discussed this in 2014 at the CPA advisory panel. Why 3%, by the way? 2% to hedge against inflation. The long-term inflation in Singapore, 20 years rolling inflation, is about 1.9%. So that's why 2%. We added on 1 more percent to consider the increase in lifestyle expectation. Okay, meaning to say, in the past, nobody will ever think of handphone as a basic necessity for retirement. Today, if you don't have handphone, cannot retire. Right? We did a focus group discussion with Singaporeans, and these are not rich Singaporeans. These are your ordinary Singaporeans, and we asked them, write on post-it pad, paste on the wall, and tell us what are the essentials that you must have at retirement. Guess what, Singaporeans? What they put? They put down things like wine, and then we are like, sorry, we mean basic necessity. And then they looked at us like, yeah lah, wine lah. No wine, how to retire? Wine is basic, So this is what I mean by, our expectation of retirement in Singapore has gone up, and we put another 1%. So it's 3% increment every year for your ERS. Okay, that's the first point. The second point is this. The second point is that I'm not sure whether you. Okay, this is a bit complicated, but let me just say this. When after 55 years old, when you look at your retirement account, then, and let's say it's 271,500 today, it may not mean that you have hit your ERS entitlement. Okay, what do I mean? Okay, I'll go a bit slower because it's a bit technical. Let's say you have transferred at 55 years old to your RA 200,000. Okay, and then at 56 years old, you top up 30,000 more. So it's 230,000 in total. So you have transferred 200 and you top up 30,000. So now your book value is 230,000. Over the years, because of the interest compounding, it is now $271,500. This is the ERS amount. But in CPF's view, your book value was 230,000. And although the balance show 271,500, you are still entitled to top up another 40,000 more because your book value is used to measure whether you have reached ERS entitlement. I hope I'm clear here. It's based on your book value. So for those of you who see your RA balance 271,500, 280, it might not mean that you cannot top up anymore. You may still be able to top up because your book value could be lesser. Okay, how do you know? Call up CPF. Some of you, if you use your SingPass account and you go into CPF board, they will even tell you how much more you can top up. Okay, now as you go on and the ERS keep going up, you can always top up that few $1,000s more. Now, how will it affect your payout? If you are under the CPF Life Scheme, which the person who asked this question, likely you are under the CPF Life Scheme, okay, when you top it up, it will just increase your payout amount. How much more will it increase? I do not know, because I do not know how much you will top up, and when you top up, okay, but it will increase your payout amount. For those of us who are not under the CPF Life Scheme, you are under the old scheme called in the past called Minimum Sum Scheme, now called Retirement Sum Scheme. If you top up, okay, it will not increase your monthly payout. It will just extend your payout period. Because under the old scheme, the average number of years you are going to get your payout is about 20. So if you top up, it will just extend a few more years. It will not increase your payout. So it depends on which scheme you're under. I know it's very complicated. I don't know why they make it under so complicated, but CPF is a very complicated animal. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I know CPF is really very complicated. Even when for me I also don't know how is it better.
You are too far away from needing to use your CPF. You got plenty of time.
But planning is important, right? Yeah. So that's why Christopher has actually wanted to do the CPF session for really to help us to understand CPF better. So that will be actually on a later date. So for those CPF questions, right, I will probably have to stop here for a while. We have a few more questions on insurance. Is it okay for us to take in a question?
Okay.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, because I have missed it out earlier. So this question, let me check. Okay, so this question. I'm 55 and have no insurance other than the typical MediSave and MediShield. No one will miss me financially when I'm gone. Oh, we will. God will love you still. Do I need to buy some kind of insurance for unexpected illnesses or hospitalization?
Yeah. So it's a good thing that no one will miss you financially, okay, because then you don't have that financial burden, right? Now, if anything, I would ask you to consider this. If you have only got MediShield Life, which is a very basic one, and MediShield Life, if we understand how it works, is that it is only suitable for you if you stay in B2 and C ward in a government hospital. Okay, if you want to stay in a better ward like B1 and above, or private hospital, MediShield Life is not sufficient. Now, some of us will say that, yeah, but okay lah, government hospital, B2C, I'm okay, what? No aircon, it's fine, no TV, I bring my own phone, I can watch my movie from my own iPad or my phone and all that. The key thing about MediShield Life that you want to consider is that when you are on MediShield Life and you go to B2C, you might not have the option to choose your own specialist, your own consultant. Now, if that's important for you, then I'll suggest you upgrade it to an IP, an integrated plan. At least upgrade it to a B1 IP plan. Okay. Now, the last one that you might want to consider is if you believe in traditional Chinese medicine as an option, then you might just want to buy a small critical illness plan. It's very expensive at this stage of your life to buy it, okay? But if you really have that conviction, you want to have that option to seek out Chinese doctors, and all that, which is not covered by your Shield plans, then you might just want to buy a small whole life with critical illness rider. If you don't have that conviction, it's fine, okay? You just probably think about upgrading it to an IP, yeah? Jordan, I saw some links being sent in the chat just now about some comments about MediShield Life, whether government. I would like to comment on that later on. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much. So let me take a look if there are some other insurance or investment questions that we may want to take in. Okay. Okay, Christopher, maybe I'll put this in for you to comment on. Is it advisable to put our funds in fixed deposit or term deposit, though we have placed our fund in endowment plans, Singlife account, like a multiplier account, which generate higher interest than bank?
Yeah, okay, thanks for that. Now, I'll answer this generically, then we talk about instrument again, right?
Okay.
Now, anything that you put in cash or cash-like instrument is going to yield you very low interest. You're not going to even beat inflation. Okay? So that's the first point. Now, does that mean then you should go and invest all your money? And I know every one of us here will say, of course not. Okay? Because we have said already that you always need to set aside an amount for emergency. An amount that is needed for emergency must be liquid, right? And by liquidity, it means the ability to quickly convert to cash without incurring much losses. Okay, the second part is very important. Okay, because some people will argue that putting in stocks liquid. Yes, it's liquid if you sell it very low, sure liquid. Your car is also very liquid if you slash half price, right? So liquidity means easily converted to cash without losing much of its capital, right? So for emergency fund, you have to put in something like that. For those of you who believe in setting a bit more for spare cash to top up into the stock market when the stock market drops, you also must put into something liquid. So what are the instruments out there for you to put in that you can put in that is liquid? You have said it already, okay? So you can put into high interest yielding account in Singapore. We have DBS multiplier, OCBC 360, UOB1, and what have you. Although the interest rate have been slashing like crazy, and all that, but well, it's still higher than your normal interest rate. Now, then you have your Singlife account, which just recently slashed. Singlife account was 2.5, it's now 2. Not bad, it's still higher than most of your saving account. But that Singlife account only restrict you to $10,000 for the higher interest rate. Now, after you have done that and you have no other place to put into a higher yielding instrument, then you have to put in fixed deposit. That's your next best option. Nothing wrong doing that. Please do that if you need liquidity. Okay, so I hope that answers as well.
Okay. Actually, I'm quite mindful of the time. And Christopher, you are saying that you wanted to comment on the links, right?
Yeah.
Perhaps you will comment on the links first, and later I will still have one more question for Pastor Benny.
Yep. Okay, so there is a link, and I'll let me just. Okay, I'm going to just share this because one of you actually asked this, and I thought it's a pretty important question to just talk about it. So let me try and share. Okay, let me find it. Okay, it's here. Okay, I'm going to share from the website. Jordan, can you see my screen share? Yeah, okay, great. Okay, so I'll show you the few links, okay? It says here, MediShield Life pays out less than half of the premiums paid, right? So basically, this person who wrote into the forum said that, you see, I'm disappointed with MOH response. Then he went to fish out some information. Premiums collected 2016, about 7 billion. Claims payout 3.5 billion. Okay, which means that the actual payout is only about 50% of what they have collected, and then in the latest MediShield review, they actually increased the premium to 35%. So this is what this forumer said, right? Okay, and then let me show another one. Okay, this is another link. Okay, so IP insurer, this is very recent. Okay, IP means integrated shield plan. There are about 8 insurers doing IP. Okay, and this person who wrote, I actually know her. Okay, Hautek, by the way, Hautek is a fellow sister in Christ. Okay, and Hautek used to be working for Prudential, NTUC Income, and Aviva, and I believe she is already retired. Okay, so let me stop share. Okay, before I stop share, I'm going to show you another site because I saw somebody asking about CashYield Life. We don't have time, but I have written quite a number of articles about CashYield in the local newspaper. So you might want to go to my website, providend.com, www.providend.com. Okay, and then if you go and search under here called Insights, okay, and okay, it is under Blog, okay, and you can go and Google, not Google, sorry, you can put under the search button here, okay, and you put just cashew, okay, it should bring you to all the cashew articles. So all these articles, launch of Cashew Live, this is the one I written in for Business Times, okay, and there are quite a few lah. Okay, so you might want to go there and read. I think it should be able to answer a lot of your questions. But back to that two forum, and the issue really is, okay, sorry. There's also one more question I talk about Workers' Party, Mr. Sylvia Lim saying that cashew is it's actually more ElderShield is a scam. Okay, now I'll try and answer this all together. With regard to that statement made by Ms. Sylvia Lim on ElderShield being a scam, she was actually referring to a very specific case that happened in Singapore a few years ago. And if I remember correctly, because it's been a few years now, I can't remember, but I went into a discussion with CPF board. I wrote an article about it. CPF board went into an investigation. I cannot remember the facts of the case, but all I can say was that it was a great misunderstanding. Okay, that gentleman couldn't claim from ElderShield because of what the doctors wrote. Because when you want to claim from ElderShield, ElderShield is a severe disability insurance. It will only pay out when you cannot perform 3 out of 6 of the activities of daily living. Okay? This Indian gentleman couldn't meet the requirement because the doctor wrote it that way. And as a result, ElderShield couldn't be paid. Okay? So I won't say this is a scam. This is really more what the doctor said. And if I remember the case again, it was a very unfortunate case between the hospital and that Indian man. Okay. Now we first have to understand that when it comes to insurance, it is a risk-sharing scheme. Okay. Risk sharing means it's like in the olden days, tontine, you know. Yeah. We all of us put into this pot, and if anybody meets with a mishap, we get a chance to get the money out. In those days, tontine is not just for mishap. Like you want to get married, also you can go and take the money, right? Yeah. But that's insurance. It's a risk sharing scheme. So imagine all of us, there are about 110 of us in this room right now, and we all put into this pot. And if you are sick, you want to go to this pot and take out the money. Can you imagine Pastor Benny and me? We cheat the system. We actually perfectly well. And Joyder is the manager of this pot, and we go to Joyder and we basically give a fake report about our situation, and we are going to go into the pot and take out the money, and Joyder in a very careless manner paid to Pastor Benny and me. The rest of you in this room will be very angry, right? Because it is just going to spoil the system, and as a result of that, the rest of us in future years may have to pay more premiums. So the administrator like Joyder must make sure that Pastor Benny and me, we produce enough evidence, listen to a doctor, and administer it properly. And in this case of the ElderShield case, this Indian man, CPF board was the administrator. Not CPF board. Great Eastern, Aviva, they were the administrator. And I don't think they did a wrong job in making sure they only pay to those people whom the doctor said should pay. Yeah, if it is a wrong assessment, then the doctor should be taken to task. Okay, that's for that question, okay? Now, for the other tooling, the question is, the recent recommendation of MediShield Life, does it justify a 35% increase in premium? Now, this 35% in premium does not apply across the board. It only applied to the people who are older. I believe the age band of about 60 to 70 years old. For the younger age band, the increment is about 10, 11%, something like that. But that begs another question, right? Because you saw another newspaper link and you saw that, MediShield is making money, what? They collected more than they paid out, what? So why is there an increment? Now, I wasn't in the review panel. I cannot answer that question. The only thing I can say is I know why they increase it this time round. Okay, they increase it this time round is because they are increasing the limits for MediShield Life. They are expanding the coverage for MediShield Life. And because of the expansion of coverage and the increase of the limit, they have to up the premium. Actually, I'm quite glad that they pay out less than they collected, because if they pay out more than they collected, the premiums will jump even more. Now, whether that's a fair increment or that, I cannot answer because I am not part of the panel. I cannot answer that. I can only answer why they increased it this year. Now, with regard to Lee Hao Teck's point about IP plans, insurers making lots of money, like 50 million, and all that. Actually, I'm quite surprised Hao Teck says that, because actually Hao Teck should know this pretty well, because Hao Teck was in the underwriting department. For many, many, many years, the insurance companies have been losing money for IP plans. Losing lots of money. And for those of us who have bought IP plans, right, we would have experienced our premiums jumped over the last 5 years tremendously because of very bad claim experience by the insurance companies. I've got lots of stories to tell you, and I can spend 1 hour telling you all the behind stories, but I don't have time. Okay, but it is basically a result of malpractices by doctors, some of them whom are caught. Okay, I experienced myself, doctors overcharging because you have insurance. Okay, it is also due to ourselves, policyholders. I'll give you an example. One of my clients suspected appendicitis. He suspected himself. He went to the hospital, did an MRI, realized no appendicitis, infection of the intestine. Doctor prescribed medicine, asked him to go home. MRI 1,500. And then he started thinking, oh my goodness, 1,500 MRI. Doctor, ward me, please. Ward me for 1 day. Doctor asked him, why? Because you ward me for 1 night, I can claim. You don't ward me, I go home now, I'm going to pay 1,500. That was a private hospital. Doctor warded him. Next day, he got discharged. Total bill 3,400 because of room charges, and they did more tests to justify their staying overnight. This is bad practices from individual policyholders like ourselves. And so as a result, all this, the premiums has been going out. The insurance company has been losing money on that. This year was the only year probably that some insurance company made some profit. Why? Because they changed the system. Now you cannot have full rider. You have to co-pay some a part of the bill so that you don't anyhow go and stay 1 more night. Right? And some insurance company instituted consumption-based charging, mean to say like car insurance, you claim more, next year you pay more premiums. Okay, so as a result of that, they saw some profits. And honestly, if I look at my entire book, if I've been losing money for 9 years and only making money this year, I don't think I would be very happy as well, because overall I may still be losing money, right? So that's as much as I comment about what Hao Teck has said. The last thing I'll say about this is, are there injustice in the system? Plenty. The insurance companies are not perfect. They're not charitable organizations. 1 year ago, a friend of mine asked me if I could help him. He had just got his hospitalization plan, or rather the wife went to hospital, okay, couldn't claim because unknown to him, his insurance plans lapsed. Okay, and the reason why his insurance plan lapsed was because the renewal was sent to his old address. Okay, and so he never see it, so it lapsed. Why was the address not updated? The agent didn't update it, even though he has told the agent. Well, cut the whole long story short, the agent tried to deny it. The agent tried to, at the back behind, try to do some funny things. But upon me pressing, we found that it was really the agent's fault. So I know the CEO of the insurance company, I say, hey, it's wrong. Then you should reinstate. Okay, because it's not the customer's fault. It's the agent's fault. Okay, guess what the CEO of this insurance company told me? But Chris, this agent is my top producer, you know. He's my top salesman. I looked at him and like, but that's not fair. So what if this guy is your top salesman? Who suffers? This whole exercise, you as the insurance company didn't suffer. The agent didn't suffer. But it is the client who suffer. Is it fair? It is not fair. And like I say, I can tell you many of these stories. They are also nice stories, okay? But what's my point? My point really is, this is like what King Solomon says, right? As long as we are living under the sun, there will be bad things like this. And as much as we can, we try to right this wrong, but sometimes it's just beyond us. How does that apply to you? And then does that mean that just because of this, we get angry and then we say, I'm not going to buy insurance anymore? I personally, my own opinion, that might not be wise, right? That might not be wise, right? Because ultimately, when it happens, you can be angry with the insurance company, you can hate the system, but when bad things happen, the insurance company is not going to suffer. You and your family will suffer. So my encouragement to you is that yes, we are unhappy with this, all these things are happening. We can voice our unhappiness. We can speak out for what we believe to be right in the correct posture. But after all that is said and done, well, if you need the insurance, please go and get the insurance, because you're taking care of your own self, you're taking on of yourself, and you're taking care of your family. Okay, so Jada, back to you.
Thank you so much, Christopher, for sharing this story. I think, Pastor Benny, what is your thought? Do you have anything to add on to this? And actually, we do have one question regarding, now that we have learned so many things from Christopher and from Pastor Benny yourself, how then can you give us some example how to glorify God then from the financial blessing that we have?
Okay, I think I saw that question in the chat. So to save us time, I just put the points onto the chat, and then you can have everything there. Okay, I think those are the 7 things that I can think of off my head as I saw your question there. How we can use the resources God has blessed us to actually glorify God and to edify everybody else around you. So I think of 7 things. One is, I think if God has blessed us with resources, firstly, invest in your own personal development, because you are the goose that lays the golden eggs. So in a sense, you need to take care of the goose. Then number 2 is, I think, use the resources God has for us to create family memories. I think these are very, very important, because if you invest in your family and be generous with your family, you're actually creating memories for the future. Then that would include things like taking a trip, blessing them with some good things in life. I think there's nothing wrong with that. Just to be able to enjoy the resources we have is a grace from God as well. Of course, use what you have, support your local church. Definitely advance global missions for sure. I think that's where God's heart is. I would also say that from our own personal resources, create a generosity fund that Christopher talked about and we alluded to earlier. Definitely, I think there is a special place on the heart of God for the poor and needy. So we should always be thinking about them, and things like even supporting a child in World Vision or in Compassion, things like that is a tremendous thing that we can do. When it comes to generosity fund, can I just add that sometimes it need not always be just things along the way, but we can be quite intentional about it in terms of buying books for people, giving your colleagues buying them a meal, things like that makes a lot of difference. Sponsoring people to go for a conference, stuff like this are just generosity that we can exercise. And I have one special one that I want to just put out there. I think there is a place also for those of you who perhaps are God has blessed with good resources that you can actually choose to live way below your means and still be very comfortable yourself. There is a place for interest-free loans that I think can be very, very helpful to people who are going through very, very difficult times. And even for churches, that interest-free loans has been a tremendous help for many organizations, churches, individuals. So can consider that as well as another way that we could use our resource. So I'll just put the 7 things there for you to think about.
Thank you so much, Pastor Benny. Yeah, I think we are really over time, but I guess those who have stayed here, who have, we all really wanted to hear more from the both of you. Yeah, but I mean, we want to be mindful of the time as well. So we are ending, almost coming to the end of the session. Answering to the question and responding to what Pastor Benny had shared about this generosity fund, right? I wanted to really just jump my announcement for a bit, yeah, because we do also encourage people to actually come and support our Bible Society's this Bible mission. So if we are touched, by today's words and you want to support this Bible mission, please do donate to us. You can scan the QR code on the screen with your PayNow app, or visit our website at donorbox.org/missions support fund to donate via other payment option. Okay, so I just thought probably we want to put this in first. Okay, so other than that, another announcement, I was sharing with you all about the CPF Q&A session. On 24th of October, we have an additional session which is focusing on CPF. For those who have already registered with us, you will not need to sign up for the session again. For the rest who have joined us because of your friends or your family's recommendation, do register with us by scanning the QR code that is on the screen right now. Okay. Or you can visit our website at bible.org.sg/fs2 to register. Okay. Your feedback to us is very important, so do help us to improve on our training programs by giving your honest feedback through this QR code that is on the left, okay, or you can go to the link that is shown on the screen right now as well, that is highlighted. Okay, so that is all for our announcement. So to close the session, we'd like to invite Pastor Benny again to actually lead us in this closing prayer. Pastor Benny, please. Thank you.
Okay, let's pray together. Lord, I'm thankful to you for this time that we have this morning, that we are able to explore this very important area of stewardship. And Lord, I continue to pray for your wisdom to be upon every participant. And as they plan for the days ahead, as they seek to become good stewards of the resources that you've given to us, we pray that, Lord, all the things that has been shared, and I especially thank you for Brother Christopher's willingness to just share his knowledge so freely with us. May you help us to become really responsible stewards, and may we all be found faithful. And at the end of our journey, able to look back and to hear you say to us, well done, good and faithful servant. And so may you give us a heart of generosity, so that in a heart that is wanting to advance your purposes and your kingdom. So I thank you for everyone here, and continue to pray that you watch over us and your favor continue to be with us. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen. God bless you all.